Coronavirus, Donald Trump, and more. This is the summary. Okay, so now to just sort of the first sort of hot button elephant in the room topic. Coronavirus, it's still a thing. It's still running rampant across the US. The Wall Street Journal writes in California, Florida, and Texas, the 7-day average death toll was more than the 14-day average death toll. That implies that deaths are increasing in those places. However, in Arizona, the 7-day average was less than the 14-day average deaths. So that basically means that the deaths are dropping in Arizona, which is really good. But California, Florida, Texas, come on. Well, New York was the epicenter of this whole pandemic. You guys were basically laughing at us. It's kind of like when my sister gets in trouble and then I start laughing at her for getting in trouble and then I get in trouble for laughing at her. It's okay, guys. We've all been through it. But a crisis wouldn't be a crisis without politics, now would it? Senate Republicans are preparing to cut unemployment benefits by $400, going from $600 a week to $200 a week. They basically think that more payments will discourage Americans from going back to work because they could be making more money at home not doing anything. Which I think, to be completely honest, is like completely unnecessary. I mean, I'll get my nails painted if it gives me something to do.
In certain cases, people were paid more to stay home than they were to work. And I think that's something that the American public understands. We're not going to use taxpayer money to pay people more to stay home.
Now, all jokes aside, sure, you can make that claim, but that's only because a lot of Americans don't make a living wage at their jobs. All this means is that Republicans are essentially cutting unemployment to force Americans to go back to work. Which, if you think about it, is pretty low. Like, that reminds me of when I was younger and I didn't want to eat the vegetables that were on the table. But then my mom said if I didn't eat the vegetables, I wouldn't get to watch the latest episode of Leapfrog, the Letter Factory. And I mean, hey, she was practically forcing me at that point. Now on to the next sort of big hot button topic in the world, in our country right now. So if you're unsure basically what's been going on over the past few weeks, there's been, day after day after day, major protests going on in Portland. But then last week, Donald Trump sent in federal troops.
A crisis unfolding in Portland, Oregon, after videos surfaced online that showed masked and camouflaged federal agents detaining peaceful protesters.
Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum says federal officers are the ones escalating the violence. She's now suing several federal agencies for actions like this.
What is going on?
We need to know.
Who are you? 3 or 4 or 5 of them jumping out of the unmarked vans at night, grabbing people off the streets, putting them into their vans.
First, we're not going to talk about how people are getting thrown into unmarked vans. Like, when has anything good come from an unmarked van? Plus, we don't even know if they're law enforcement if they're unmarked. I mean, they could be people cosplaying as law enforcement. I mean, I thought my Star Wars costume was pretty good, but like, these guys are on another level. But in all seriousness, this is bad. The president sent in federal troops to quell a peaceful protest. These protesters are protesting the continual oppression of black people in this country. Also, I just find it funny that when Obama deployed federal agents to deal with a group of ranchers that were trespassing on federal land, conservatives were terrified.
The president is expanding the effort to protect federal property in Portland. Reportedly now sending 100 more agents. Operation Legend is a beginning. It's greatly needed in all of these cities. I am having a hard time understanding why the government would create a confrontation like this. The government has gone way overboard here, and I think they need to pull back fast.
The city of Portland has been under siege. Federal DHS and DOJ officers and agents have been deployed to keep the mobs in check. As we watch that estimated 200 federal agents and local law enforcement surround the ranch, the word of this evening is tyranny, as in the arbitrary, unrestrained exercise of power.
When somebody looks at lawlessness and says it's a local problem, you can do that to dismiss all bad behaviors. Even though there's some lawlessness involved here, the inclination is to be for the individual, even if the individual may have broken some laws.
For more than a month, mobs of violent, crazy people have roamed this country, terrorizing citizens. It's the armed agents who are scarier. And so how could you look at this and say, Cliven Bundy's the one who threatens America? When the DHS deployed federal law enforcement officials to protect the city's federal buildings, they were accused of, quote, acting like an occupying army. The federal government needs to pull back. They need to think about what is the end game here. Are they willing to tase people, fight people? I saw one picture of a bloodied up woman, an elderly woman that was thrown to the ground. 200 agents, snipers surrounding a ranch. Seems a little over the top to me.
It's over the top. It's very strong.
Wow, people at Fox News are really simping for Trump. Last time I saw this level of simping, it was my 1-year anniversary video. I just find it hilarious how When it comes to COVID-19, President Trump is all about, you know, letting the states figure it out, letting the states deal with it. But when it comes to these Black Lives Matter protests, President Trump doesn't seem to care what the other states think. Alright, so that was kind of all the big news that we have to talk about, but there's still other stuff going on in the world. So last week, the State Department expelled Chinese diplomats from a consulate in Texas. They said they were using it for spying. Now, naturally, as you do, the Chinese government then did the same thing in China. Now, is it just me, or does this sound like when two high schoolers have a falling out and then they both unfollow each other on Instagram? I mean, both would lead to mutually assured destruction. Oh, and 2020 has just gotten a whole lot weirder.
Now to a growing mystery surrounding unsolicited packages of seeds randomly being sent to Americans across the country. Agriculture officials are warning residents, if you didn't order the seeds, do not plant them. The packages appear to have originated in China.
Bro, 2020 has to be the oddest year in history. I mean, this makes the movie Cats look like something normal. Okay, so time to conclude this episode with things I'm not going to talk about, but we'll probably talk about in a later video.
It's been widely reported that the US has intelligence indicating that Russia paid bounties, or offered to pay bounties, to Taliban fighters to kill American soldiers. You had a phone call with Vladimir Putin on July 23rd. Did you bring up this issue?
No, that was a phone call to discuss other things.
And you never discussed it with him?
I have never discussed it with him, no. It never reached my desk. You know why? Because they didn't think it was intelligence. They didn't think it was real.
It was in your written brief, though. Do you read your written brief?
I do. I read a lot. Really? You know, I read a lot. They like to say I don't read. I read a lot. I comprehend extraordinarily well.
Right. You should probably keep your attention on the peaceful protests happening in the country.
Fox News alert. Some breaking news this hour. A tweet from the White House. President Trump tweeting out a short time ago on the upcoming presidential election.
With universal mail-in voting, not absentee voting, which is good, 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. It will be a great embarrassment to the USA. Delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote? Question marks.
To be very clear, the president cannot do that. The Constitution is unambiguous about this, that Congress, not a president who may have their own self-interest in mind, gets to decide when the leader of the United States is elected. And to his other point, there is no evidence, of course, of widespread voter fraud through mail-in voting, even in states with all mail-in votes.
We need to get people back to their jobs, and we need to get them working again. We need to postpone the election. We can't have people going out and voting in the middle of this crisis. Now, I think we should end with some good news. Now, in May 2020, a woman named Crippen, hope I'm pronouncing that right, I'm sorry. A woman named Crippen was diagnosed with COVID-19 at the age of 73. Once she recovered, she was sent to a rehabilitation center and nursing home in Nebraska. She was reunited with her long-lost sister, whom she hadn't seen in 50 years. Both sisters have the same father, but different mothers. The last time Crippen saw her sister, she was 20 years old. And then over the years, they both searched for each other, and because of COVID-19, they finally found each other. Alright, well, this is the end of the show. I know this is the first one. I hope you all enjoyed it. Leave in the comment section down below if there are any topics you want me to talk about in next week's episode, and I will look into it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already to stay updated with the channel. Have a great day whenever you're watching this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys!